Hey guys, it's Divine here for a quick merchanting review. There will be at least one more big video about the evolution of combat after this one, as it is a very large update with massive impact. But for now I quickly wanted to discuss this news post Jagex made today and its effect on the market. So let's get started. So here's the news post Jagex made. It was made around, I believe, 5 p.m. GMT, and I'll just quickly look into all the points and explain some stuff about it. So the first topic is a combat triangle. Right there they describe some news about you being able to hit more with weapons even though you're wearing another piece of armor from another part of the combat triangle. Now this doesn't really affect the market because it's too, how do I say it, it's too complex for people to understand what exactly is going to happen. Like they might not know, like, should I buy this armor or should I buy this weapon? It's not clear enough, and if they read over the rest of the post they find a lot of interesting stuff that's much easier to invest in. So the part of the combat triangle is pretty much ignored here because people would rather go for the other stuff. Next up, potions and herblore. As you can see, herblore wasn't so successful in the evolution of combat. It was sort of nerfed and people asked for it to be improved, which Jagex did. And the first thing you should do here is think which potions and which herbs are going to be affected. Now the obvious choice is overload, and like if people are going to invest, their first choice is probably going to be Torsal. So right here I've got the Grammy Torsal graph, and the update was released around that time for me, so I'm showing you the graph here. As you can see here, about 30k, and right after they rise up like 2k each, almost. And they remain around that for quite a while. Now if you buy a limit of these, or let's say 300 mil, and you would sell them, that's quite a nice 18 mil profit for almost no work. And it is possible because, as you can see, it took probably like an hour for them to actually rise. Next up, prayer. In this part they describe how prayer is pretty much nerfed in the current beta version, and due to popular demand they are improving it. Now the reason why they nerfed both prayer and herblore is because they're buyable skills and they're really expensive, and I guess Jagex didn't want your power to depend so much on how much money you have. Anyways, the first two items you think of here are obviously Dragon Bones and Frost Dragon Bones. So let's have a look at their graphs and see what happened right around when the update was announced. Frost Dragon Bones. Here the post was made and they made like this tiny baby jump, which is really nothing. And after that they rose to just below 10k each. Now nothing spectacular for these. It probably has to do with their low limit. They might still rise after this. I'm not really sure, but these didn't really do anything spectacular. So let's go on to Dragon Bones, which did do something. They were around 2.1k each here, and Jagex makes the post and they take a little jump here, nothing much, but right after that they go up to around 2.2k each, and a bit later on to 2.25k each. Now if you buy a limit, that is still about 1.5 mil profit for pretty much no work at all. Now the reason why these didn't do a whole lot again is because it's not clear enough what exactly is going on, what is going to be improved. Jagex doesn't mention this. Now personally I find this rise really funny because if you think about it, you have prayer right now in the game, which works fine. Then you have it in the evolution of combat in the beta, which is sort of nerfed, and they want to make it in between now and the beta. So that would mean that overall it's going down. Now what people are buying bones because prayer becomes worse. Yeah, that makes so much sense, guys. Now I'm skipping over the equipped items interface here because it isn't really of any interest. Now as for special attacks, we know that they are going to be replaced with abilities in the evolution of combat. Now that's nothing new. What's new here is the fact that Godswords were supposed to be equal in the evolution of combat. The only different thing would be cosmetic. Now after feedback from players, because they really like the fact that they're different swords, they're adding some special abilities, some special effects to these swords, and you can read them right here. So Armadillo increases attack and strength. That when you read that you immediately realize that it makes it fairly popular because people like to have high damage output. And you can see Bandos that decreases the target's defense. Now people aren't really going to use Bandos much against bosses, so like this is already slightly less popular than Armadillo because Armadillo can be useful everywhere. Now then there is Saradomin, which remains pretty much the same thing, which is Slayer, and then you have Zamarok, which is just yeah, it's the same as it used to be, but it's not so interesting for people. So let's have a look at what happened to Godswords. Starting with the Armadale Godsword, around 13.5 mil when the post is made, and pretty quickly after that they rise up to about 15 mil. Now this is great. If you bought 10 of these, then you pretty much made 15 mil profit if you timed it right. They might rise even further, and as I described, the effects of the Armadale Godsword are the best out of the 4, so these obviously rise the most. Now I got off my lazy ass and bought myself 10 of these, as you can see. I made about 7 mil in them. Pretty nice for pretty much no effort. Oh, and that Red Party ad, I think I made 20 mil in that. Thanks to Snow. Thank you, Snow, for the tip, that is. And as for the Virtus, I might include that in the next Evolution of Combat video. Should be pretty interesting. And then last is the Bandos Godsword. Now as you can see, they literally didn't do much. Yeah, they even dropped a bit here. Now they've remained fairly stable. Now the reason for this is simple. Like I said before, people won't be using a Bandos Godsword much for that effect, because for a boss it's not really an effective weapon, and for Slayer, by the time you killed your monster, like you wouldn't have even been able to drain its defense before that. Now the reason why we don't track the other Godswords is pretty simple. They have a limit of 10 and are interlinked. Interlinked meaning if you buy 10 Armadale Godswords, you cannot also buy 10 Bandos Godswords or Saradomin or whatever. So that pretty much wraps up the video. Thank you for watching, and I hope you learned some stuff about how to interpret news posts like these and how to make a very quick and easy profit. See you guys!